I guess just quickly while we're getting that loaded, just a quick question in the room. I'd heard that it's a really engaged crowd, and I've seen that, and that's excellent. I'm going to leave a lot of time for questions because I like open discussion. How many people in here use or collect data on their farms with any platform, any program, or just put data to use on their farms? Just a quick show of hands. Perfect, about half the room. Hopefully I can change some minds and open up a conversation for others. So, as Daryl mentioned, my name's Gary Csoff. I'm the product manager for Canada for the Climate Corporation here in Canada. So I work across the country in all crops and get to see some really cool farms ranging from 40 acres to 40 to 80,000 acres. Today I'm just, I kind of left it a vague title in talking data in agriculture, and hopefully we can get a good conversation going by the end. Bit of background on me. So it was mentioned that I'm from Ontario. I grew up on a tobacco farm that we transitioned in 2007, 2008 to grow pumpkins, corn, soybeans. We have a corn market as well where we'll sell on the roadside. We also just recently put in ginseng and asparagus. So we grow a very different crop. Our farm is about 200 acres on the north shores of Lake Erie. Our biggest used implement is a 60 horsepower farm-all tractor that runs through our fields for weeding. So we don't have any herbicides that we can use on a lot of the crops, so we have to manually weed it, throwing dirt over the seed as a physical barrier. So at Climate, we really have three kind of core values, and these values go beyond climate, I would say, into a farm data strategy, in that having all your data in one place can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I can have all the data from the past 30 years of my farm in a filing cabinet, and if I can't use it, query it, and write an algorithm to predict what's going to happen next, is it really useful? Having your data all in one place means having it in a digital format that you can search just like Google. You can then query that data and see, hey, I want to see all the fields that had 30 millimeters of rain in the last 20 years that are on this soil type with this hybrid at that fertility, sprayed with this certain fungicide, how did those react? So when you can start to have your data in a sortable, usable, shareable format, you can start to derive insights from that data, which is going to create value on your farms. We can then use that data to help make operating decisions. So if we want to write a variable rate fungicide or a variable rate prescription, or you want to know which fields in your operation have had rainfall in the last 24 hours so that you know where to go or where not to go and spray, you can start to use the data to make operating decisions and ultimately save you time, which of course is money on farm. And then you can prioritize your time for maximum use efficiency. So as you have data and you have that available to you on a cell phone, in an app, on the go with you, always on your hip, wherever that may be, you can now start to really derive value from that because you're going to see which fields you should go to and prioritizing your time in your farming operation. Our belief at Climate is that the next breakthrough in digital agriculture will be utilizing data and analytics to optimize decision making. It was great to hear Kirk talk about that in his presentation as well. A lot of the themes I'm going to talk about are the same as what he had presented, which is great because that's just an industry movement of where we're going to go. So now we can start to think of how can we bring this strategy to our farms. Our mission is to help the world's farmers produce more with less. Our goal is to fundamentally change the way that natural resources are turned into food, feed, and fiber. There's nothing new about evolution in agriculture. Change is the only constant. We went from birds spreading seeds to grow more tomato plants, to then we'd plant tomatoes in a garden, to hunter-gatherers, to the 1900s where we had the plow, into the green revolution, into Roundup Ready technology and biotechnology, auto steer, automation. Now there's 20 sensors on a combine that basically drive itself with no one in it. Nothing's new about that. It's just our pace, our change of pace is going to change here in the future as well. When we say that agriculture is going to change rapidly, that doesn't mean overnight, but that means in the next 5 or 10 years, you're going to think back and say, wow, this kind of caught me by a huge swing. 10 years ago, when did Facebook, or how was Facebook? Now everyone and their neighbors have Facebook and they share pictures on it. They actually just celebrated, I think it was their 15th anniversary a few days ago. So that's a relatively new company that's now everywhere, and they're one of the most wealthiest companies in the world as a free platform online. One thing to consider, and I really like that there was a 700 horsepower tractor coming up, is that, yeah, sure, we've come a really long way in data. So when we talk about data, it used to be a floppy drive. We now have more technology in our pockets, all of us, than the first computer, which was the size of a house. So yes, we've really come a long way on the computer side and the electronics and the bytes, bits, megabytes, terabytes. We've also come a long way in the horsepower grand scheme of things, where it used to be 1 horse per acre to now we have 700 horses underneath the cab of a tractor in front of us that we actually don't even touch the steering wheel of. It runs itself. So we've come a long way in both of those aspects. At Climate, where have we come? Well, 2 ex-Google guys started Climate in 2006, a company called Weatherbill. Started it in their basements, a couple Google executives' basements. I imagine afterwards was different than you or I's basement at home. They then changed their name to the Climate Corporation, and they focused exclusively on agricultural inputs. They used to sell insurance models if you wanted to buy insurance for your honeymoon, or if you're a construction company and you wanted to hedge your bet against weather, you could buy that. There were a few acquisitions. So in 2013, a small company called Monsanto purchased Climate for $1 billion, made a blockbuster deal. What's an agricultural company doing buying a data science company out of San Francisco? Slowly transitioned. In 2014, we acquired 640 Labs out of Chicago. We divested Precision Planning in 2017, I think was the closing date. And then today, here we are. I'll kind of talk about what it is that we're going through, but we are global, so we're in every hemisphere. We're in North and South America, launched in Europe last year, and working towards other geographies as well. So how have we come to data? Well, there's been a massive increase in computing power for a massive decrease in cost, is essentially what this slide is saying. So you can have 32 times the computing power for less price than 10 years ago. You pay 25% of the cost that it used to cost to transmit that data wirelessly, and it's only 3% of what the cost used to be 10 years ago to store that data, meaning all those have decreased either 75% or 95% respectively. So it's becoming cheaper to collect more data and to analyze that data moving forward as well. Data on the farm is certainly only going to increase, so whether that comes from sensors on a combine, on a baler, on a swather, in the soil, in the crop, in drones, UAVs, airplanes, satellites, whatever that is, data is not going to go away. And as we learn more, if you can measure it, you can manage it. And that's really the motto of what's going to happen moving forward, is we're going to have more data collected on the farm every day. And as we can start to get into those and start to analyze those, we can now derive insights as to what might be happening next on the farm. But as for what's happening, there's going to be a whole lot of data. And yes, it's great to see what happened last year, but it's also good to flip that page to see, hey, can I derive insights to see what's going to happen next? So that I can say, hey, is there going to be a flea beetle problem on this area of the field? Is there going to be a fungicide or a fungal issue in my wheat crop? Do I need to spray, consider spraying, whatever those may be? One quote that I like to think of is one by Ted Levitt, which is, people don't want a 1/4-inch drill, they want a 1/4-inch hole. Having all this data there is great. You're going to have access to it. You're going to be able to use it however you want, but ultimately we want the easy button, because we don't have time when we have to spray 10,000 acres of wheat in the next 4 days, or we have to go out and seed all these fields in the next 14 days. That's why we have 95 to 100-foot drills. That's why we have 120-foot sprayers. We have to cover a lot of ground fast here in Western Canada, because our window of opportunity for the season is smaller than other geographies relatively, and ultimately it is that easy button that we are going to look for that'll gain value for our farms. The way that we're looking to do that at Climate is by a collaborative platform. So really bringing together people in the industry to ultimately have data at the farmer's hands, however they want to share their data accordingly. So there's 3 types of platforms that really exist. There's a developer platform, there's a market maker platform, and there's a solutions-based platform. Developer platforms are the Apples and the Androids of the world. But as you look at all of these companies, these big companies, they also can fit into any one of those 3 platforms. Meaning that Facebook is a market maker. They have Facebook Marketplace. You can also develop on top of Facebook, so you can have Facebook Messenger. You can have sign in with Facebook on your Google account. You can have sign in with Google on your Facebook account. You can now have all these different APIs that are talked about and how they work through a platform. So all of them are integrated and they can all work together, so that you're not inputting data twice in 2 places and doing the redundant tasks that are often required with using multiple platforms. Who uses a platform? First and foremost, in the middle are you, the farmers. You guys will use the platform to interact with platform partners, whether it be, hey, I want to send my data to my accountant and I want them to run my cost of production per bushel of wheat, or you can work with your advisors and you can share your operation with them and they can see real time what the satellite imagery is saying as for field health. They can go out and scout, create notes, create a task for you, and then you can track that task throughout the season to make sure, hey, everything's being resolved. So it's all about everybody using it together and having a common place to really conduct your business. At Climate, we really see it being all that data coming together into one place, whether it be on your phone, your iPad, your Android, your iPhone, whatever that may be. You could have your livestock building talking to your tractor, which is talking to your Scout, which is saying, hey, I need to fly the UAV drone here because the satellite picked it up and I didn't like something that it saw, but it wasn't clear enough, so I had a UAV fly it, which then talks to your weather station or your soil moisture probes, whatever those may be, which then tells your autonomous sprayer to go out and spray this type of weed. You know, all those crazy concepts that you can hear talked about are all now starting to come into real testing because we now have access to this data. A lot of research that was done in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they had really great concepts, but there was no way to bring it to farm. There was no infrastructure in place to really start utilizing this technology in a scalable format until now, when we can have all that data in one place and really be collected. We have over 55 platform partners in Canada, so pretty much all of the OEMs that exist partner with them. We also have a lot of soil labs, drone companies. This is ever evolving and ever changing, I would say, and that our goal is to really partner with everyone so that farmers ultimately can have access to all their data, all the data that they want at the end of the day, and then share it as they see fit. How do we do this at Climate? So you can access your data on a computer, an iPhone, an Android, or a tablet. Tablet is by far the most optimized experience for it. And then we also have a thing called the Fieldview Drive, which is right there in the bottom right. Fieldview Drive is it's a Bluetooth-enabled CAN system. So it's a little device that you plug into your CAN port, and it Bluetooths data to your iPad. So you don't need to have a cell connection in the field. All that puck does, so it's a drive, you plug that into your CAN port, and that's going to Bluetooth data right into your iPad. So at the end of the day, you can take your iPad out, and now you can have your data with you at all times. You don't have to take a USB stick. You don't have to worry about pulling it from a cloud that's on a system and having it. You can have it on your iPad, and then it's all stitched together, and then you can either share that with whoever you want, or you can keep that and start to run some analytics on it as far as, hey, how did my hybrids or varieties do in these areas of the field? Did my fungicide prescriptions pay off? You know, how was my agronomy advice on, you know, quarter L2 L232, whatever it is, whatever data it is you want to look at, you can now start to do that because the drive's really enabling that from a rainbow farm to really collect that data all in one place. Here's just some quick shots of really what it looks like in the cab with Climate. So you get the in-cab visual. It is like another monitor in there. You actually don't have to have a monitor in there. So if you just have a GPS, a standard GPS dome, you can actually plug it into that, not even have a controller, and just say, hey, I'm seeding this product at 4.5 pounds an acre with this much fertility, and then start to record that so that you can analyze it later. Same is true for remote view. So the same task, if you have multicolored equipments, you don't have all one color, you can view into any of your cabs from anywhere that has a cellular connection. So a great way to see if you're speeding, what they're seeding, make sure all the varieties are right. You can do this from your phone or your iPad, kind of on the go. One way that guys are using it is to see which end of the field the sprayer is going to be at so that they know where to take that tandem truck to fill it up with water. Again, optimizing your time as an operator and a farm owner. Data upload, so if you have any historical data like those CN1 folders or RCD folders if you're green, or CN1s if you're blue as well, you can bring all that data up. You just have to zip it, upload it, and it's going to be available for you to use and access on your iPad or anywhere that you decide to look at your data. A lot of maps exist within it, so you can see yield by elevation, you can see yield by fertility, you can bring in your soil test data if they're geo-referenced, combine elevation if you want to see, hey, how's my field looking? Do I want to move soil from one part of the field to another? How's my drainage looking? You kind of have all those maps to, again, compare side by side in the cab to really start to analyze your operation and really see, hey, what's going on? How can I make some changes? You can share data right from the cab, so as soon as you're done the field, you can send that data. If you rent land or you have a landlord or you want to send it to your agronomist or your field rep, you can pick what field and what data it is that you want to send to them. They can always be in the loop as far as your data is concerned. Yield analysis is where you can look at, in your operation alone, you can see, hey, how did hybrids or varieties perform per soil type or per field? You can see the average of your field as the orange line, and then you can start to really sort your hybrids accordingly. This is one that certainly can make a lot of money, because if you see a hybrid that performed 10 bushels less, but you didn't know that because maybe your yield monitors weren't calibrated properly, whatever that may be, if you have a 10 bushel yield increase across even 100 acres, of any crop, you're going to make a lot of money on that for next year. You're going to get rid of that low yielding hybrid and you're going to start to pick a different one moving forward. That's one that certainly growers find a lot of value in. Yield analysis and harvest summary, again, just pulling up that quick summary in the field of how everything did. You can see by hybrid, by soil type, how all of your different hybrids or varieties or treatments performed, which again can help you make better decisions moving forward. New this year, we've added the ability to edit data, so MultiCombine Calibration is a visual thing now, so you can see where your combines were in the field and you can actually adjust the weights of those to the exact. If you have a grain cart, you can now automatically adjust that, or you can go in and just auto adjust that, and what it'll do is it'll take where the combines were side by side and it'll adjust that factor to the exact weight that you pulled off of that field so that your yield maps are exact down to the pound that you drove it across the scale with. If you're a person that likes to print maps or reports, we give it in several different views. You can also print the maps if you like to have maps around. There's options there for you as well. You can circle a part of the field and see really how that part of the field performed. So of course, not all trials are equal, but if you can go to different yield regions or yield zones within that field, you can then start to see, hey, how did these particular treatments perform in those specific georeferenced areas throughout the field. You can write prescriptions in it, so you can work with your trusted advisors or your retails to write prescriptions very easily on an app. So you can do this on your iPad or on your computer, which is great. You can do that for all fertilizer, seeding things. Satellite imagery is kind of, it's there, certainly there to use. You know, I'm not going to stand up here and guarantee you that you're going to get a daily satellite image, but anytime that we're over top and we're able to get a satellite image into your account, we're going to send 3 of them: a true color, a scaled vegetative index, and then what we call a climate crop index, which forces variation within those fields. Typically see about 1 every 7 days. It can come 1 every 2 days, 1 every 3 days, but those are kind of the numbers that are played with. And then next is, I believe, weather. Oh, scouting, so you can go out and geotag any of your scouting pins. So again, this can change from your notepad where you would keep down in your scouting notes. Now you can georeference it, take pictures, add notes, share that with your agronomist, come to a resolution faster. All the conversations that you're going to have with your farm team, as we call it, are going to be more informed and faster because all the data is going to be available to you and to them if you've shared it with them, for them to really go in and start to, you know, add value and save yield potential in your operations. We include weather, so per field, you know, did it rain, did it not rain? Fairly accurate, actually, all things considered. We are moving to an even better provider that I saw last night. They have 2.2 billion weather stations, so they actually use partly in phones. There's barometers in phones, I believe they're called. So that's a really cool advancement where they're using AI to really derive weather models. So we're going to get hourly forecasts built into the app, which is really cool for growers and models when we're looking at growth models and disease cycles. So what does all this mean? What does all this data collection mean? Why are we doing it? Why am I up here talking about data and all these things? You know, I'd already mentioned a few different companies that ultimately exist that weren't even here 10 years ago. A few others would be Uber and Lyft. Those are massive companies that basically took the cab over easy. If you look at Netflix, who tried to sell themselves to Blockbuster, Blockbuster said, no, that's never going to happen. Look at Netflix now. They just increased their prices and all of their users stayed overnight. That's incredible to be able to do that. Where are we going with agriculture in doing this? Well, there was a comment made about cellular connectivity in the field is a big deal, and that is an absolute big deal for rural Canada for us to stay competitive in the marketplace globally. We look at places like the US, they have a lot of coverage, but there's new technologies now which are actually old, but they're being retrofitted. One is called TVWS, which is basically the TV white space. So when you go to a satellite and you see, hey, why isn't there 854? Why doesn't that channel exist? Well, no one's paid for it. It still can transmit data, so now you can have data transmitting from the field via this. And if you think of a 1080p stream of Friends, you know, the TV show Friends, well, that's a lot of data that's transmitting. So can we use that to get data out of the field? Can we do the same with local TV stations? The local news, Channel 6, from 12 to 1 a.m. is now transmitting data from my field, and I can see all my soil sensors coming in, and they're all sending data in. These are things that could become possible here in the near future. IoT on the farm, so that's the Internet of Things coming down to the farm. You can now have your, well, not now, I should say in the future, there's concepts where you could have a drone fly over top of your land. It could ID and scope out how many weeds are in your field and what spectrum is there, and make sure that every single weed in that field is hit with 2 effective modes of action. That's incredible when you think about, hey, we used to have a 120-foot sprayer and every square inch of that land gets sprayed. We can now fully optimize, or we're going to be able to fully optimize where that gets sprayed and then collect all that data on the back end. The last one that I really wanted to touch on is traceability. So that's, making sure that we can know the weather around our spray events. We can know when we sprayed, how much we sprayed, why we sprayed, the parameters around us spraying. We can have all that data, as well as when we planted, how much we planted, when we seeded, when we combined. You can have all that data in Climate. It's all in one really nice report. So we've actually partnered with several insurance companies that, when I talked about growers entering data twice, you can now send a report directly to your provider, and then they'll have all the information that's needed, and it's just with a click of a button. So I think that traceability is going to become a lot more important as we move forward. I'm really curious to hear the grain buyers in the room, their perspective on that. There's a lot of buzzwords like blockchain that come into place, when really the focus is traceability initially. So if we can trace where that grain comes from, how it's produced, I think that's going to empower farmers to really share more of your story of how your grain's produced in a digital format that I think a lot more people will be perceptive and open to. We are chartering into very unknown territory, however. This is not something like a new seed variety that we can come up and we can say in 7 years you're going to have a new TrueFlex variety on your farm. These are things that haven't been thought of before. These are completely innovative tasks that we have folks in San Francisco, Seattle, St. Louis, wherever there are engineers, they're working towards solutions for growers. One question that often comes to mind in a quote from Henry Ford is, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Right, so what do I want? I want more yield. One question that I like to ask is $10 saved the same as $10 earned in your pocket? If you save 10, is it the same as making 10? No one has to answer, but these are just the questions that we think of in the tech side of things of, hey, how can we start to derive new value for growers using data that's there that they have on their farms? So let's start to really generate more of those concepts. A few key takeaways that I just want this room to start with. So it was great to see the number of hands that started at the start with, hey, I'm collecting data on our farm. What I just want to encourage every single person in the room is start today. Even if it's in an Excel sheet, however it is that you can collect data to start, for the future generation of farmers. We talk about the change in people in tractors or combines. They're going to want more data. They're going to be used to having a cell phone in front of them at all times. Any question they have, they're going to search Google. Any question that they have, they're going to do all these things. So if they can have that data available to them, that's going to be incredibly powerful for them moving forward. Leverage data on your farm. So start to think of ways of, hey, how can I use the data that I have, these yield maps that already exist in my combine that all I need to do is pull it out on a USB stick, plug it into a computer, now I can have it on my phone. Let's start to leverage that data so that you can make better operating decisions on your farm. And then lastly is develop a strategy for data on your farm. Data on your farm isn't going away, it's going to stay here. Think of what the 3-year plan is, the 5-year plan. What does data collection look like in 12 months? Of course, there are going to be new, innovative, fast things coming on of, hey, look at this cool new shiny object. But pick one of the main players that are going to be there that have a name behind them and a reputation that you can trust, and start to figure out how you can leverage that on your farm so that you can build that into your strategy moving forward. Just wanted to end it on quickly with Climate. So one thing that we're working on is it's called Try It Before You Buy It. So you get 1 year free on the platform, full access to everything that I showed today. Really exciting opportunity for anybody that wants to get going. Talk to your local Bayer rep. Even Rocky Mountain Equipment, a lot of Case guys are dealers as well, so feel free to have that conversation. And with that, I'll just open it up for questions, and just wanted to say thanks a lot to the Wheat Growers Board for having me out here, and look forward to taking any questions anyone might have.